This is VOA News. Reporting by remote, I'm David Byrd. The U.S. Senate has started considering a $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief bill after Democrats made late changes in hopes of getting it through a narrowly divided chamber. AP's Sagar Meghani reports.
The Senate split 50-50 over whether to even start debating the bill.
The vice president votes in the affirmative,
with Vice President Harris breaking the tie in her role as Senate president, underscoring that Democrats have virtually no margin for error in trying to achieve President Biden's top legislative priority. Republicans argue the bill's too big, with too much money for non-virus-related provisions.
The table of contents for this act is as follows.
And before letting the debate start, they demanded Senate clerks read the entire bill aloud.
Section 9819.
It's more than 600 pages long. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Breaking from other Southern Republican governors, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey extended her state's mask order for another month Thursday, but said the requirement will end for good in April. Following the recommendations of medical officials, Ivey said she will keep the mask order that was set to expire Friday in place until April 9th.
Even when we lift the mask order, I will continue to wear my mask while I'm around others and strongly urge my fellow citizens to use common sense and do the same thing.
At the White House, Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the Biden administration continues to urge people to continue wearing masks.
It's imperative that people listen across the country, whether they live in a red state or a blue state, to the guidance of public health experts.
The governors of Texas and Mississippi have said they will remove mask mandates and reopen their states, even though coronavirus infections have not dropped below recommended thresholds. This is VOA News. Thousands of New Zealanders on the east coast of the country's North Island evacuated to higher ground early Friday after a third offshore earthquake in less than 8 hours triggered tsunami sirens and warnings. Workers, students, and residents in areas like Northland and Bay of Plenty were assisted by civil defense officials as authorities said tsunami waves could reach 3 meters above tide levels. There were no reports of damage or casualties from the quakes. The latest quake had a magnitude of 8.1 and struck the Kermadec Islands northeast of New Zealand's North Island. That came shortly after a 7.4 magnitude quake in the same region. Earlier, a large 7.2 quake struck about 900 kilometers away on the east of the North Island. Warnings were also issued for other Pacific islands like Tonga, American Samoa, Fiji, Hawaii, and others. Police in Myanmar broke up demonstrations in several places with tear gas and gunfire Thursday as protesters took to the streets again undeterred by the rising death toll. Reuters' Lucy Fielder reports.
Hundreds of people attended the funeral of Angel, a 19-year-old woman, also known as Kyle Sin, in Mandalay on Thursday. Mourners, many of them young like she was, filed past her open coffin, chanting slogans and singing protest songs. On Thursday, police opened fire and used tear gas to break up protests against military rule in Yangon. The United Nations Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet called on the security forces to halt what she called their vicious crackdown on peaceful protesters. The European Union on Thursday suspended its support for development projects in Myanmar to avoid giving financial aid to the military. On Friday, the UN Security Council plans to hold a closed session on the crisis.
That's Reuters' Lucy Fielder. The number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits edged higher again last week. AP's Ben Thomas reports.
The Labor Department reports 745,000 people filed initial claims for jobless aid, an increase of 9,000 from the previous week. It's a sign many employers continue to cut jobs, despite evidence that the overall economy is improving. All told, 4.3 million Americans are receiving traditional state unemployment benefits, and when you factor in supplemental federal unemployment programs set up to soften the economic blow of the coronavirus pandemic, an estimated 18 million people are collecting some form of jobless aid. The nation still has nearly 10 million fewer jobs than it did in February of last year. Ben Thomas, Washington.
Reporting by remote, I'm David Byrd, VOA News.